Memories. They're like two-headed snakes with a grudge. When the night comes with menace and terror clinging close, your old friend recollection will pump venom deep into your veins. None of this makes sense, but that's okay, for the gaping and bloody maw of nostalgia awaits just beyond the next field of crimson VHS tapes. Welcome to Retrographic Horror. Greetings, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Retrographic Horror. I'm your host, Darsh Norvels. When Anthony J. Rapino, creator of the Candy Corn Apocalypse, first asked me to host Retrographic Horror, I replied, "Who are you, and how did you get in my I replied, "I'd be honored." Memory is a slippery thing. It embodies both good and evil. Here on Retrographic Horror, we scour the internet for the most influential YouTubers in the horror and retro community. We then imprison them for 2 to 3 days while asking probing questions about their past and applying a slight electrical charge to their grundle region. Our first guest comes to us from the Great North, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, California, Mexico. Please welcome Amy Blair of Amy's Autopsy Report.
Hey guys, welcome to Amy's Autopsy Report. My name's Amy. First off, I want to thank Anthony Rapino for inviting me to be a part of this project he's doing. I was honored to be asked. Anthony is one of my favorite channels. He's like the king of Halloween. And so I was excited to do this. I have movie marathons all year. I especially have a ton of them in the month of October. And I usually do like kids movies, Halloween kid movies, movie marathons, like old Universal Monsters movie marathons, 80s horror movie marathons, and I'll do them for the whole month of October, and I also do one on Halloween night, if it is possible, because the last couple of years, Halloween has been on, like, random weekdays, so I've had to kind of do the movie marathons, like, the weekend before. I typically, like, I have my Halloween lights on, and a pumpkin candle lit, probably my air diffuser too, when I kind of set the scene for myself, and I love to have, like, movie snacks. I'm not a big, like, soda drinker or anything, so I typically just drink water. I know that's boring. But my snacks, I love to mix hot Cheetos and popcorn in a bowl, and then it's like you have hot Cheeto popcorn, and it's amazing. So that's typically how I do a lot of my movie marathons. And I thought I'd tell you a quick story about the first movie marathon I was ever a part of, and it was the first movie marathon and also the shortest movie marathon because I was 11 years old. I was at a slumber party, and we were just gonna stay up all night and watch scary movies. Well, we ended up watching Nightmare on Elm Street, and it was the first time I'd ever seen that movie. And we all ended up getting scared, and then we fell asleep. So that was the extent of the first movie marathon I ever did. I will do movie marathons all year, and sometimes they're not always horror or Halloween related. Sometimes I'll do one with action movies or kids movies or comedies or ninja flicks, monsters, you know, all that kind of stuff. Movie marathons are like a big part of my life. I actually didn't think about that until I was doing this, you know, asked to do this video. So yeah, so my favorite snacks, hot Cheetos and popcorn mixed in a bowl. Doesn't get any better than that. If you're having food, then I always go for pizza, personally. But that is my take on movie marathons, guys. Follow me on Instagram at Amy's Autopsy Report, and I will catch you guys in the next one.
Our next guest hails from somewhere in the world. According to his Wikipedia page, his greatest accomplishment was nude skydiving with the dolphins. He enjoys rock collecting, rock throwing, and rock breeding. Please welcome Joseph Rogerson, your geeky neighbor.
Hey family and friends, here with this special video from Anthony Rapino, and the subject at hand is horror memories, horror movie marathons. So sit back, let me reminisce of a nostalgic tale of my childhood. Back in 1986, I believe it was 1986, this is my fondest memory of a horror movie marathon I went to. And I was probably 9 or 10. They were having like a Halloween movie marathon type thing, just a couple of days before Halloween. We dressed up in a costume, and my sister took me. I remember she had to stay with me. I don't know, she wasn't really happy about taking her little brother to some Halloween thing. We went up to the local elementary school, which is my hometown elementary school I grew up in. And in the auditorium, they converted the auditorium into a big theater, and they were going to show some films. Kids were running around with costumes on. I was dressed up like a hobo, because hobos were easy. I even had my little satchel. And my sister was Dracula's bride. I believe she dressed in white, had fang marks on her neck with some blood. What I really remember about that movie marathon is we went in the old auditorium, which is really strange acoustics in there, and it was really eerie vibe to it. I always thought that place was eerie when I was a kid. But they started their movie marathon with Three Stooges. Yeah, and there's a haunted episode of Three Stooges, I believe, well, a creepy episode. It's called Creeps, but they play moving men, and they have to move furniture from a haunted castle, I believe. So that was pretty fun to see that episode. I mean, you don't see Three Stooges on TV anymore. And then they showed Garfield's Halloween Adventures, or aka Garfield in Disguise. And the kids, I remember all the kids were really happy when that one came on. Everybody was cheering because it was fairly new Halloween special back then. And then they showed The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which was awesome. The Disney classic from 1949. Then they showed the films, and they showed Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein from 1948, and that is just a classic. And in that movie, Abbott and Costello, they also meet Dracula and the Wolfman, I believe. So that's a really fun one. But my favorite one, of course, and this is my favorite Universal monster film, they showed Creature from the Black Lagoon last as like their main feature. And I've always liked Creature from the Black Lagoon, but when I saw it up on that big screen in that auditorium, I really fell in love with the Universal Monsters that day. It was just a great vibe there. And I know it wasn't like most people's idea of a horror marathon, but it did show some horror elements to that marathon. And it was just you know, horror and Halloween, they kind of go together, don't they? I feel like they do. But we had a great time there, and in the back they had the auditorium. You go out the auditorium, and around the hallway there was the cafeteria for the school, and they converted that into a haunted house. So they had a haunted house back there at the same time, and they had a great, fantastic Halloween costume contest. And I remember a friend of mine from down the road, a rich kid from down the road. Everybody had a rich kid from down the road, right? I knew him, and he won because he had this homemade E.T. outfit, and it was amazing. It was all stitched together. But that was my fondest memory of a horror marathon. I don't even think they were calling it a horror marathon. It was just Halloween Bash or something they were calling it. But growing up through my years, hanging out at my dad's TV repair shop, I would always get the VHS mixtapes, you know, the VHS from the 80s, everybody. The mixtapes, and always have numerous horror movies on it. And I would always go over there and marathon those with my friends. We would watch the whole tape. No matter what the horror movies were, we would watch it. And that's how I discovered Evil Dead and fell in love with Evil Dead. It was on a mixtape from my dad's VCR and TV repair shop, because the VCR tapes were always stuck in the VCR, and I would get them out and watch anything. I watched so many movies I had no business watching, but I watched them as a kid, and I would just endlessly be drawn to the creature features and the horror and slasher stuff. Thank you very much, family and friends, for hanging out with me here, and thank you very much, Tony, for having me collaborate with you on this video. It was fun. I never really thought about that old gathering at my auditorium until you asked me to do this. And then I remembered that was just a great experience for me as a kid. Everybody, thank you again. Listen to my story. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Back to you, Tony.
And now, a word from our sponsors. Retrographic Horror is brought to you by Time. Time. Each one of these slowly uttered words is bringing you ever closer to death. Now in nostalgia flavor. Time. It's slowly killing you. Available at your local Walgreens, Genovese, and CVS. Our final guest of the night needs no introduction. He's known for his infamous anger. He once spent 3 years in anger management for various offenses against humanity. He enjoys cooking, long walks on the beach, and sacrificing squirrels to the dark god of evisceration. His friends know him as Humberto the Horrible, but we'll just call him Johnny Tellez, our final guest of the evening.
Marathons. So I've done a couple of marathoning type things, either really for part of a series or for like a theme. So I do a couple of things. One, I'll tell you about my favorite marathon ever. That was at the Alamo Draft House. So last year, I believe it was last year, they did the Nightmare on Elm Street series, Never Sleep Again movie marathon. So what it was all of the original Nightmare on Elm Street movies up until Freddy vs. Jason. So as you can imagine, it was a long day. I think you got there like noon or something, and it kind of went up until like midnight because you had the movies, and they had, a little bit of a conversation in the beginning. They had the movie. They'd have a little bit of chatter after the fact, where they'd talk about the movie we just watched, what our impressions were, things like that. They played a couple of games, trivia, whatnot, and then a little bit of a break, and then the next movie. So that was a beating. I'll be honest, because most movie marathons that I do, I'm on my couch, right? That's nice and comfortable. That's easy. But here I'm sitting in a theater chair, and they got nice chairs, but it's still a theater chair, and you're sitting there all day long. I did take a couple of naps, probably, as we got to, like, number 4 and 6, and I was just like, like kind of dead by the end of it. Didn't help that I was drinking. I was drinking PBR though, so that's my go-to movie marathon drink.
People still look for and enjoy the good things from the past. Blue Ribbon is one of them. Still brewed slowly and naturally, like it was when it won the Blue Ribbon.
Because like I go to their mystery movie marathons on Halloween, and you know, you're there for like 6 hours, 8 hours, and so I need something with low alcohol content that's cheap that I can drink throughout. PBR. So, you know, and I ate a couple of times. It was great. I got a fried egg BLT. I got a pizza later in the day. It was awesome. What's really, really cool about the Alamo also is that they gave us little Hypnosil jars, or like medicine tablet containers that had chocolate-covered espresso beans in them, so that helped. And by the end of it, you got a patch. It looked like a Boy Scout patch. It was an eyeball with a razor blade cutting off a lid. Never sleep again. So that was my favorite marathon. My least favorite marathon was one I decided to do all on my own. I think this was now, actually, over 3 years ago, somewhere between 3 and 4 years ago. I was living in my old house, and I was, you know, just on my own, and I decided to do a Friday the 13th marathon on Friday the 13th. Yeah, again, that's a huge series. Took me forever, but I was well prepared, right? I had tons of snacks. I had every chip imaginable, basically. I had tons of candy. I had ice cream. I had dips for my chips. I had a bunch of, like, junky-type food that I could go back and forth into the kitchen with. And plenty of alcohol. So again, I had beer, and then I think by the end of it, I went to gin. So, but also, I was chronicling this adventure for my channel. I was filming everything throughout it all. Filming, so I had, you know, like, a good... probably an hour and a half's worth of footage by the time this was all done, because I was talking about what I was doing for the marathon, my impressions on each movie, my favorite kills from the movie, all that, how I would rank them. I did everything, only to lose all of the footage by the end of it. So the next day, I woke up, I was hungover, I felt like crap from all the terrible food, I plug in my memory card, and there's nothing. So, that was the worst. That was pretty awful, in fact. I love the food aspect of a marathon, because you're committing yourself to not leaving, to not stopping, to just sitting. So I always try and do some, like, really awful food for you, or I'll make, like, a big dish that I can eat through the day, or I'll order a pizza, you know, just fun movie foods that you want to be able to snack through, chips, dips, candies, all the like. And again, I think that if you are going to be going through a marathon of movies, in order to pay attention and keep yourself engaged, you kind of gotta be drinking. And that's just my personal opinion right there. I would need that so that I could have fun with it and really enjoy it. That's bad. That's really bad to say. It's not that I don't have fun with movies and that I don't enjoy movies when I'm not drinking. This is awful. But typically, you're not marathoning a series of movies you've never seen before. You're marathoning a series of movies you know and love and have watched for many, many years. So you want to just have a good, relaxing, kick back, chill out kind of a time, you know? Whatever that was. A time. I think that's... Wow, I sound awful. I am not an alcoholic. Bottom line, but everything I've said about marathons has turned me into an alcoholic. But aside from that, I will say that my ongoing type of marathon that I have is come every October, well, typically right before October, I'll start putting together films to watch through October, and that's what my weekends in October basically consist of, is this Halloween movie marathon week after week leading up to Halloween. And every year I try and do something a little bit different. So last year I think it was, I did all sequels, so I did just all, you know, Ghoulies 2, Child's Play 2, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, you know, just all sequels of films that I love, but I wanted to see the second, or third, or fourth, or fifth ones, whatever it may be. But, yeah, movie marathons. Good times. Time, you know, whatever that was.
As the light in the sky dims and night comes once again, I must bid you a fond farewell. From all of us here at Retrographic Horror, breathe deep of the night. Hey gang, Tony here with my entry for Retrographic Horror Marathons, and apparently I don't get an entry in my own show. I didn't want to host, I wanted Darsh Normals to host. And he was awful, I know, he missed his mark. Sam had to edit around every other frame. I know. But can I at least talk about the Twilight Zone Marathon? Die Hard? Halloween? Gremlins? Critter? Okay. Yeah, okay. Strictly producer. I got it. Okay.